Alright guys, what's up? It's your favorite fragrance Giga Chad here. I'm just chilling. Gonna get this review going for you guys. The Hugo Boss Absolu. I don't know if it's actually Hugo Boss or Hugo. There's some specifics with, they broke that company up into 3 different subsections. I know the company that actually owns this is called Coty. They bought the Hugo Boss and Hugo brand to release fragrances that have been reaching out to newer audiences. I saw in their mission statement when I was researching them that their goal was to reach out to the Gen Z community or demographic to make things more appealing to them. And that might tie into this a little bit when I get into the actual breakdown here. This is a 2024 designer release from a very large conglomerate owned company. This is not like a small niche house fragrance. This is not an indie house. This is a very, very commercial. Coty owns, I think they employ 20,000 people worldwide. They have a lot of employees. Coty owns Boss. So I was looking into the perfumers, a little bit of backstory on the perfumers. They're behind a lot of fragrances, I believe 130 combined, different fragrances along many lines. Coty owns many, many companies that you guys are familiar with, like Jupe, Davidoff, and Boucheron. They have fragrances from Dior that they've made. They've made Acqua di Gio, EDT, the perfumers worked on that. The perfumers worked on Amouage fragrances, about 3 that I saw there. Many, many more, but notable. Also the same perfumers who worked on the entire Boss bottled line worked on this. This bottle is a 50 ml bottle, and it retails for $110. There's a 100 ml bottle that retails for $140 according to Macy's. I'm going by that price because it's the most accessible. I got this 50 ml on Frag-Buy for about $60, which I think is an absolute steal. It is great. This fragrance is sold out. Really, really hyped. Really, really desired fragrance. It's giving me that Jean Paul Gaultier elixir kind of phenomenon of last year, where when it first dropped, people loved it so much, and now it's just sold out. You have a pretty interesting little bottle with a gradient here. I do enjoy it. It feels okay in your hand. Cap is nothing to bark at. It's actually plastic. Atomizer's okay. Atomizer's just a little squirter like that. Not bad, not super good, just very, very acceptable. Pretty decent product here. When we get to the smell, you guys will see how I really feel about it. This is being hailed by a lot of Fragrantica as the designer of the year kind of award going to this. And I even had that go through my head too. I was like, this one's pretty good here. So it reminds me of that Jean Paul Gaultier hype from last year with when that thing came out, that gold bottle, the JPG Elixir, that was like super hyped. Smell-wise, where does this land? So I have a few comparisons to give you guys, smell-wise, where this lands. Let me show you a few fragrances and explain to you how this thing kind of breaks down. So the way the thing smells, I'm going to compare it to a few fragrances right now. If this doesn't help you paint a picture, then I'll try to explain verbally, kind of breaking it down via the notes. So from my understanding, what they say and what I get are a little bit different. So let me tell you what I get out of it. I get a lot of this Mancera Red Tobacco Intense DNA, and I'll explain why. But you have to combine it with 2 other DNAs, and maybe even 3. Parfums de Marly Carlisle, blended into that, and Parfums de Marly Altair. Now, the 3 of these fragrances, if you were to find a middle ground between all 3 of those fragrances, you'd get very close to what I'm going to explain to you that Boss Bottled Absolu smells like. So I get a vanillic sweetness. The patchouli in this is like a dark chocolate, like a dark cocoa kind of chocolate. It's got an animalic dark leather in it. So it has this roughness, almost the same way that these Red Tobacco Intense and the Red Tobacco come off. That like harsh kind of leathery animalicness that goes when you spray it at the beginning. And it has a smoky and spicy kind of undertone with that resin from the myrrh. So notes aside, this thing is like a sweet, nearly gourmand, classy, smoky, deep, dark, resinous kind of, still a touch fresh, guys. But definitely still versatile. It definitely is mass appealing. It is definitely a designer. I strongly prefer the Boss Bottled to the Elixir and any of the other flankers that I smelled in the store. Didn't really like the Elixir personally. It's just like a smoky kind of masculine thing. This one though, definitely great. long lasting like crazy. So I wore this all week since I got it, and I got a lot of subjective stories with this already of having it and wearing it for a week. But on first smell, I was extremely impressed, immediately impressed, but it seemed familiar to me. It had a red tobacco kind of, and if you guys have followed my channel for a while, you know that red tobacco intense was one of my favorites for a while there. It's definitely still one of my top, favorite scent profiles, but this one kind of takes that into a more mass appealing direction. It takes that a little avant-garde DNA and kind of moves it into a more sweet, less rough, more accepting, more mass appealing kind of DNA. It's a sweet kind of fragrance, guys. Like a lot of people in their reviews are saying that it's a incensey, smoky kind of thing. I don't get that. I get a lot of this depth. I get a little bit of that smokiness, a lot of resinous on top of this bed of soft sweetness, almost in a caramel direction. Guys, it's very sweet. Like when I say it's a mix of Altair, Carlisle, and red tobacco intense, I really mean it's like dead on in the middle there. They must have smelled Altair when they were making this. Not that it's an Altair clone at all, but it has that package of sweetness, that kind of same direction it wants to go, but they tone it back a little bit. Altair seems to be, to me, like a very one-dimensional kind of straightforward, sweet blasting fragrance, that bourbon vanilla kind of deal that they're giving you. But this one, it has actually what I would think of as high-quality perfumery. I've had expensive things that smelled like in this direction. So it takes a little bit of risk, but it has that mass appealing side, and I like the duality of this fragrance. So a couple subjective stories of this fragrance before I give it a rating, a recommendation, or anything. If you guys are looking to buy this, it's sold out right now, and if you could get it for a good price like I listed at the beginning, definitely grab it. If you're a collector and you already have red tobacco, Altair, and Carlisle, the vibes on those are very similar to the vibes on this. So if you want another one that's a little bit easier to wear, I think this is easier to wear than all of those. And I know that's a little bit controversial, but I think this is easier to wear than even red tobacco or any of that stuff. Red tobacco intense is easier to wear than red tobacco, and this is even more so easier to wear. So Hugo Boss or Boss, I don't know how they break it up. I'm pretty sure this is just Boss at this point. Let me see on the bottom there. Yeah, they call this a Parfum Intense as well. So on the bottom there's a sticker. It says Parfum Intense. So I don't know what they're getting at there. I think it's a high parfum concentration, but I would strongly recommend this to somebody who wants a sweet fragrance but doesn't want to go into kind of like a gourmand dream kind of situation. You want to have like a sweet, dark, you could dress this up, you could cozy it up with some sweaters. This is pretty versatile scent for a sweet scent, and it's different than a lot of the other mainstream marketed stuff that's out there. I'm saying the sweet fragrances are in right now. They're definitely out there. Like sweet is in for guys especially. Whenever I wear sweet fragrances, I get a lot of compliments, and let's talk about some subjective compliments with this one. So this fragrance, about a day in, I sprayed it on, wore it to work. Nobody seemed to notice me too much. I did start getting the "you smell good" stuff from like random moments walking in front of people and stuff, so it leaves a trail for a long time behind me. I sprayed generously on my skin and on my shirt, my sweater, and my clothes. So that sweater I ended up wearing like it's a zip up that I take off and I put back on, and I take off and I put back on, and every time I would put it back on, I would get hit with this fragrance, man. The sweetness, just the way that kind of cozies up, that depth, the darkness, the leather, it's all there the whole time. A little bit of smokiness, it's a masculine take on that. I really thought there was vanilla in this, guys, or just some kind of vanilla, kind of sugary caramel, kind of deep and dark, very alluring fragrance here. So when I was wearing that, 7 hours in, I was setting up a patient in a different spot, and they turned to me and said, "Wow, what is that you're wearing? I'm going to buy that for my husband. Tell me what it is." And I had to show her a picture of this. She took a picture of it. She's buying it for her husband. So it started to get a ton of compliments, like the second day in, the third day in. And all week I wore this, and it just kept doing really well. Just random, unsolicited people following you. They're walking behind you, and they can smell it in the air. It's not like too much. Definitely, I don't know if you could even go too much with this. it would be tough to really overspray this. I mean, at the beginning, very, very beginning, don't go up to your hand and smell your hand. I'm telling you, just let it be in the air. What it does in the air is very, very different than when you go up to smell it on your hand. If you go into the store and you spray this on, resist the urge to go and smell it off your hand and just start walking around. You're going to smell it coming up at you. Just be very patient. I think that if you go up to your hand to smell this, it might actually, some of you guys who aren't used to something like this, it will turn you off a little bit. But if this is this might be the fragrance for like one of you guys. And I'm talking to my friends out there who are into this stuff. This thing is worth going to the store to try to smell. I did try to go to the store to smell this already after I already ordered it and had it. I was checking out the other Boss line just to see if there's anything else there that's like this. Nothing really rings my bell like this one. This one is really, really set above the other ones in my opinion. There are a ton of Boss fragrances, guys. Really, the Boss bottled line, a lot of them. I don't have any of them, just this one. And this one really, really jumps off the shelf at me. So I have to give this, guys, a 10 out of 10 for me. Personally, how much I like it, what it's worth, what I got it for. It's perfect for what it is. And I'm impressed with this big conglomerate designer house putting out something that is mass appealing but still daring. They're still trying a little bit. Almost in the Tom Ford direction, where he's a mass designer, but he still puts out risky stuff. He still puts out interesting things, and he's always on that cutting edge of kind of trying something new, trying something daring and bold. This is that has daring and bold in it. It has this depth to it, but it also has this really, really confident thing that I could just rely on being a great smelling fragrance in general and not smell like anyone else, because nobody's got this on. Even if you're around guys who are wearing Carlisle, Leighton, Altair, what else? Red Tobacco. I think Red Tobacco Intense is the closest thing to this. It's very, very, very close. This one's just, I think it performs better, first off, than Red Tobacco Intense. I think it performs better than that. It doesn't have as much going on, so that smoky craziness that Red Tobacco gets into, the oud that it gets into, it doesn't do that. This thing is just really, really mass appealing, 10 out of 10 for me. As recommendations go, I cannot recommend this to everybody, because unless you're into fragrances or you're at that stage where you want to have something a little different, a little new, something different in your collection, you already have your signature scent, you already have your all year rounders, you already have your freshies, this will be really great to add to your little repertoire. This could be like the 3 or 4 spot of your fragrance collection that you seldomly grab, or that you use for the holidays and winter and cool weather. I'd say that this is a great fragrance for any of those situations, and it's going to be a hype beast for a while, and for good reason. So it walks the line between mass appealing and challenging and interesting. So I commend them for their efforts. This is a very, very highly rated and recommended fragrance, guys. Get it for a good price, and that's all I have. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you actually let me know in the comments if you have some experience with this or similar fragrances or whatever you see. Peace.